Hello. I want to first thank everyone who's watching this video for taking the time out of their day to do so. There's a lot going on right now with the nationwide shutdown, but this video is important because today we're going to be talking about something that will impact our future for the next 10 years, which is the US 2020 Census, and why filling it out is so crucial during this time of COVID-19 and quarantine. My name is Sean Evers. I'm an undergraduate student at MSU working with Capital Area United Way through the Community Engagement Scholars Program. We have with us today Mayor of Lansing, Andy Shore, Andy Crawford, City of Lansing Chief Innovation Officer, the Director of Department of Neighborhoods and Citizen Engagement, and the co-director of the City of Lansing 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. Finally, we have Sam Singh, the CEO of Public Policy Associates, a former mayor of East Lansing, and a co-director of the City of Lansing 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. He's also a minority leader for the Michigan House of Representatives. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of the U.S. Census and why you should take just 5 minutes out of your day to fill it out. To let everyone watching get a better understanding of the work that you three do, why don't we just start with Mayor Andy Shore and take maybe 30 seconds to state who you are, a little bit about your profession, and why your work impacts people and the census.
Well, thank you, Sean, for introducing this and for hosting. I'm the mayor of Lansing, so it's an honor to represent the citizens of the city of Lansing. We provide services, that affect people all the time, every day, whether it's your trash and recycling, which actually just came by, whether it's the water that comes out of your faucet, your roads, your parks, your police and fire, your neighborhoods. All of these are integral to the daily lives of every citizen. And the way we pay for these is through taxes from property and income tax and other things, but we also get significant resources from the federal government. And in order to draw down resources and dollars from the federal government, our taxpayer dollars coming back to Lansing, we need to have an accurate count of the citizens of Lansing. The more people that we can show live here, the more resources we get. So the census every year, every 10 years, is tremendously important that we get everybody counted so we can bring back the dollars and provide the resources that the citizens expect.
Great. And so, thank you. And what about you, Andy Crawford?
Yeah, the other Andy. Thanks, Sean. And I want to recognize that, Sean, you and your colleagues, Claire and Maddie, all have been working with us this year. This is absolutely not how we envisioned this semester of your college going, but you guys are doing great work. We're so proud of our partnership through Serve Lansing with the MSU Scholars Program. And you guys are doing great work, and I'm sure there's probably parents of all of you guys somewhere around the corner that you told to be quiet because you're on a very important call. So if they're listening in, they should all just feel really great about what great students and young professionals you guys are. So congratulations, parents that are lurking over in the kitchen over there, I'm sure. Our work is very much about making sure that our citizens have the resources they need to thrive in the city of Lansing. And as the mayor said, the census is critical to doing that. And our work is to make sure that all of our citizens are represented and have the resources they need. And so I'll turn it over to my co-director, Sam Singh, to say a little bit more. But we've been hard at work on the Census Complete Count Committee since last summer. And we didn't envision that we would get to April and be living in a completely virtual world. And we'll talk more about how we're changing our strategies to make sure we are able to get out the complete count. Sam?
Yep, thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and partnering with the city of Lansing. The census is such an integral part of our day-to-day activities. Most people don't realize that, but the impact of people filling out their census over the next couple of weeks is important because that is going to impact our day-to-day life here in the city and the state for the next 10 years. And so we've been proud to be working not only with the city government, but with nonprofit organizations through the Capital Area United Way to make sure that everyone is counted. And because of the difficult times the pandemic has presented us, it's going to be difficult for us to do that. And so we're trying our best to make sure that all the nonprofits have the tools that they need to be able to make sure that every single person is counted in our communities, because that's going to mean revenue to our state and to our city for the next 10 years.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you guys for that brief introduction of yourselves. I guess we'll jump into the questions. So my first question will be directed towards Mayor Andy Shore. In this unprecedented time of world and nationwide shutdown, we're here discussing the U.S. 2020 census. So why should people care about the census during this time of high anxiety? And what is the census and what is it used for?
Well, first we want to address, the high anxiety and the reason that we're doing this virtually and not in a big event, which we were going to do at Geyer. We are social distancing. We have a crisis. We have a virus, the COVID-19 virus, which is spreading, and I think everybody knows this. So we are preaching social separation. We're preaching stay at home. So clearly, we're not going to have a big census event, but we want to make sure that people know it's still tremendously important. When you look at a lot of the resources that we are spending now to assist our homeless, to ensure we have proper protective equipment for our first responders and for working with our hospitals and others, right now is actually one of the best examples of the important resources that we need to receive. We're seeing dollars come in from the federal government, from the state government. Again, a lot of it is based on your population and those that you serve. So we need to be providing that information. So we need to make sure that people are not having any more anxiety than they need, that we're not asking them to come out into big gatherings. But at the same time, we need to ensure that they're still filling out that census form, that 5-minute census that they're getting in the mail or doing it online. We need to make sure that folks understand, especially now, especially in an emergency where the resources are most needed, that we're able to draw down those resources from the federal government. So the census is even more important now. We're just adjusting the way we're talking about it. We're trying to pitch this virtually. We're trying to get it out through social media, through traditional media, through emails and videos and every way we can, so that people are still socially distanced. We don't have to get them one-on-one and threaten spread of disease and virus, but we can still get them so they understand this is tremendously important, especially now, but at all times, to ensure that we can draw down the resources and we can get an actual count. I've already filled mine out. We've sent it back for my family, and we're pushing everybody to do the same.
Okay, great. So the census, it's used to count the population and determine different geographical populations in the U.S. So this next question is for Andy Crawford. Why do we need to have these population counts? I mean, what are the benefits of knowing population differences between states and counties?
It's critically important that we understand where people are and that we count those populations accurately. When we talk about getting a complete count, that doesn't mean, inaccurately inflating numbers. That means making sure that every person that's here is accurately reflected. And you'll hear terms like hard to count population, and we'll talk about some of those barriers a little bit later. But really, this is about the allocation of resources. The federal government will allocate, $675 billion worth of federal funds according to the results of this census. We're talking about 40% of the dollars that come back to the state of Michigan to provide services, critical services like schools, like Medicare and Medicaid programs. All of those programs depend on those dollars, and if we miss population and don't accurately reflect the folks that are living in the state of Michigan, we won't be able to provide those services or have those resources. This is also about representation as well. As you'll hear more about later, this is about our representatives in Congress, but it's all the way down to where we draw our ward lines in the city of Lansing. So this is about resources and representation. And if we don't have an accurate count, we can't allocate those things correctly.
Wow. Okay. I see. So the census does more than just count the population. It also determines our federal funding from the government, and it determines our representation in the government. So this next question is for Sam. Do we really need everyone to respond to the census? Well, we really need them to respond, but how do we get them to do that? And is it easy to do that?
One of the great things about the 2020 census is that it's more convenient than ever before. The census can be done online, it can be done by telephone, or it can be done in the traditional way by mail. And so what we've been asking people to do is take those census they received. They should have probably received at least 2 pieces of mail from the Census Bureau so far. And on that piece of mail will be a code that once you go online, you go to my2020census.gov. That's my2020census.gov, and you can fill in that code. If somehow you don't have that code or you lost that piece of paper, no problem. You just go to the bottom of that screen on the website, and you'll be able to fill out the census by using just your address and some other qualifications. The great thing is it's only 9 questions. It shouldn't take you any more than 5 minutes to fill out, and you actually give more information on a regular basis onto social media and other types of accounts than you actually do by filling out the census form. If you're not comfortable, you don't have great access to the internet, you can also do this by phone. You can call 844-330-2020. That's 844-330-2020. That's the toll-free number. You can call and somebody will pick up and you'll answer those 9 questions with that individual. And for those people who don't fill out either of those, the forms that way, you'll get a paper form in the mail in the next week or 2. And we ask you to fill that out. If you don't either do the census by online, phone, or mail, they will actually send somebody to your house or to your apartment to get that information. And so that'll be a census enumerator that will happen sometime in the month of May. And so if you don't want to be bothered by somebody later on in the spring, best is to fill out your census form now. It's easier than ever before. And we've had a number of people already fill out their forms and say how easy it was and how quick it was. And so we're just encouraging everybody to get that done as soon as possible. So that way you don't have to have somebody come into the house bothering you during dinner or getting the dogs all worked up sometime later in the spring.
Okay, great. So, I mean, the government's doing a lot of things to make it easy for people to fill out the census, whether it's online in paper or over the phone. But, you know, people are giving their personal information. So how can people ensure that their information is safe and secure?
That's a great question, Sean. The census is 100% confidential. There's a federal law that bans any kind of sharing of information from the census to any department. So they can't share it with any federal department. They can't share it with a police department. They can't share it with a friend of the court. So there is a very strong set of laws put into place that keeps all of that information confidential. When you take a look at the 9 questions that are being asked, they're pretty simple questions. They're asking, who lives in the house? Do you own your house? What is the race and ethnicity of the people there? What are their ages? And so those are very simple questions. And as I mentioned before, we share that type of information on social media all the time. And so when people take a look at those 9 questions as they're filling it out, they'll realize that it's pretty common information that they should be comfortable sharing. And the rewards that the city, that the county, that the state will receive is immense. Over $30 billion came in last year from the federal government to help us with all kinds of services. And we're pleased that this year's census will be easier than ever to fill out.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So we know a little bit more about what the census is, that it's used to generate federal funding to our communities and let us get representation in the government. It's easy to fill out and information is confidential and secure. So this is for Mayor Andy Shore. Are there any populations that might not be represented in the count, that they might not respond to the census? And what are the implications for these undercounted populations?
We certainly have traditionally undercounted populations. There's a variety of factors. You've got people who are mobile, so you've got snowbirds or people who are traveling, hopefully not now, but people who normally are traveling that you know, they miss it or they don't fill it out for whatever reason. So we need to make sure that all of those folks understand that that they need to fill it out if they're spending their time here. If they're here when the census comes out, they need to be filling it out here in Lansing. We've got renters. You know, Sam mentioned you know, houses or apartments. We have a lot of renters who may think, well, I don't own a house, I don't have to fill this out. Well, no, everybody does. Everybody has to fill it out for their entire family. So if you're renting, you're still filling this out to make sure that you are counted. We have folks who are non-English speakers. So we've got the census in a variety of languages, and we want to make sure that everybody is able to fill it out. So we will make sure that everybody's able to fill it out and send it back. You have people who honestly are mistrustful of government. So you have people who think, oh, this is the government. And like Sam said, there are protections in federal law that this information can't be provided and then provided to other places within the government. You're not going to see a police officer at your door. You're not going to see anything like that. This is strictly to be counted. And if it's shared, you're breaking the law and someone's going to jail. So there are specific protections. But again, there are people who will not trust what they see as government. You have folks who are lower income, who, again, whether they don't have time or they don't care, or this just isn't a priority. And we have to remind them that if you are using social services, if you need social services, a lot of that is as a result of resources received from the federal government. You need to be counted. We also have folks who are immigrants. If you have undocumented immigrants and others within your community, those folks still count, because you're still providing services to everybody that's in your community. And again, that information is not shared. So the consequences certainly are not having funding for the services we need. If you don't include your young child, they may not get the educational resources they need. If seniors aren't filling this out, they may not be getting the services that our older citizens need. Everybody is getting the benefit of many of these services. So everybody needs to fill it out. And we understand kind of the nervousness and the concerns with not only the COVID, but all of the other factors that have been mentioned. But again, these things come in, we ask people to fill them out, and it's not shared. So it really just counts as, what is that total population number for your community? What dollars come back? What representation do you get back? So it's tremendously important for everybody. And we want to make sure that the traditionally undercounted populations are getting counted, so that everybody can get the benefit of the resources and the dollars and the services from the city. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. This next question goes out to all of you. What are some current things that the government is doing, on a federal, state, and local level to help people fill out the census?
Well, one of the things that is kind of unique to this year in the pandemic is that our public universities and colleges have allowed students to go back to their home communities. The U.S. Census did send out a directive saying that all students should still be counted back in their home communities. And so a lot of Michigan State University students live in the cities of Lansing and East Lansing, Meridian Township, and so forth. And so they might actually be right now living back with their families in another community, but they are required to fill out the census as they were living here in Lansing and or East Lansing while they were attending school. And so it's a message that is somewhat unique, because they would have normally been here, normally filling out the census here, but because they've been gone for the last couple of weeks, we're making a very concerted effort, as well as the Census Bureau is making concerted efforts to inform families that those students should be counted back in their university towns where they were living.
Okay, great.
Sean, there's also been a lot of effort to make sure that we can reach those communities that Mayor Shore described. There's been funding provided to a lot of our nonprofits across the region to do that necessary translation materials, to do specific outreach. And a lot of that, as you know, in your work has been directed at getting people together and having events. And so we've all had to pivot very quickly our strategies and really reassess those techniques and make sure that we're still able to get people, to make sure we reach them and let them know that maybe one of the good things is people potentially have more time to fill this out. And so hopefully with folks in their homes, they have a few spare minutes to take that on. In fact, someone told me the other day, I think he was joking, but maybe not, that, he was disappointed how quick it went, because, that was his activity during quarantine for the night that he had planned. He was disappointed that it was over in 10 minutes, but it is only 9 questions, 10 minutes, that affects 10 years of funding for our community. And so there's a lot of people working really hard to make sure that this complete count gets done. And as Sam and I are co-directors of the Complete Count Committee for the City of Lansing, that has dozens of community members that have been meeting regularly and collaborating and getting their strategies together There's also an effort across the Tri-County area, Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton counties. And then there's a statewide complete count committee. So it truly is an all hands on deck approach to what is might seem like a simple thing. Just count all the people. How hard can it be? But it is actually really difficult to make sure that we get every person counted. And, you know, while we're at this time of not having any sports to watch, Sam and I's new sport is, of course, watching the census response rates. And anybody can do that. Go to 2020census.gov and you can track your city, you can track your state. And it's important to note that Michigan is ahead of Ohio at this point, and we expect to crush them. So that is our competition. That's how we're getting our March Madness fix at this time.
That's really great. Great to hear that we're beating Ohio, I will admit.
It's not that tough.
So I guess another question I have for everyone is how the coronavirus pandemic has impacted the census and what is being in response to that.
Well, one of the things that was being planned was a series of events across the region to let people know about the census. Many nonprofit organizations, churches, synagogues, temples were planning to do door-to-door activities to let people know that the census was there and their forms were available to fill out online. And so a lot of those things obviously have changed. And so our tactics have changed. We're doing more things online. We're doing telephone banking and making sure that people are aware that, you know, they pay taxes. Their money's going to Washington, D.C., but this is their way of getting that money back to Michigan, back to their community. And so we're doing our best to convey that and make sure that people stay safe by social distancing, as Mayor Shore mentioned, but at the same time filling out this very critical piece of information. If you take a look at what's happening with our hospitals, you're taking a look at what's needed for the handling of this pandemic. It's so urgent that we get that federal resources back to our states and to our local communities. And so the census is the tool that allows for that. And so I do think it's going to remind people how important the census is as we watch the response that has to happen on a local and state level and a federal level to this pandemic.
Yeah, and I think that that this being at home, the stay-at-home order, it's definitely changing things. You don't want to be out in groups. You don't want one-by-one interactions physically, but you do want interactions with as many people as you can get, especially with those who are not traditionally, who are the undercounted or traditionally have not filled it out. So I think folks like Sam and Andy and complete count committees all across the state and the nation are all adjusting so that that we can keep everybody safe and not risk further spread, try and flatten the curve, but get everybody to respond. It's a different way to do things. I mean, even now, regardless of this pandemic, we were doing things different this year than we were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you had mass numbers of people from the health department and others who were walking the streets. Even now, there was going to be less of that and more interaction by communications, by virtual and things. So I think we had kind of a schematic for that. We're just putting it into high gear to make sure that people are touched individually, so they understand the necessity of filling out the census. It's just now we really can't have these mass gatherings and things where you bring a lot of people together and get them to commit to fill out the census. We're doing it really more one by one, but we're also sharing on Facebook, sharing on other social media, doing videos, putting it on city TV, putting it out there with PSAs. If you go fill up your car with gas, you're not supposed to be driving, but if you have to go get groceries, you fill up your car with gas. You see it on the little window at the gas pump. There's a lot of other medium where you're able to hit people to remind them how important it is to fill out the census.
Yeah, and it's a tough job to do that when you can't be physically in contact with them. So we work with what we got. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Andy, but those are all my questions. So if anyone actually has anything else to add for our viewers right now, this is just something to conclude with.
The only thing I would add is, if you're watching this now, share it. You know, we're doing this so that it can spread. You know, we need to make sure that everybody who sees this can share it and remind everybody else that they have to fill out their census form. People may forget in their, you're stuck at home, you're doing Zoom meetings, you're learning new online existence to get through your day and get your work done. But people, this could slide off the list of things to do. So anybody who's out there watching this now, you need to share this, send it to your email lists, put it on social media, make sure that everybody understands the importance, and we have to spread the word.
Okay, great. Well, just want to say thank you for you three for joining me today to answer these, very important questions. If anyone viewing this video has more questions about the census, you can either go online to www.2020census.gov for more information, or you can leave your questions in the comments. And to everyone viewing, just please remember to take 5 minutes out of your day today to fill out the census, and encourage your friends and family to be counted. So thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. And I'm sure the mayor would like to say, go green.
Sorry, what? It cut out. Sorry.
Right? That's
I can't
okay.
hear what it is.